Joining us now exclusively, Starbucks CEO Kevin Johnson. Kevin, it's always good to see you. I understand that the progression during the quarter was just much better. January a little bit weaker than February, March in U.S. The terrible incident in Philadelphia that I know you spent a lot of time on and couldn't go to Philadelphia, is the progression continuing of strength despite what occurred that had national implications?
Well, Jim, certainly, as we commented yesterday, I mean, we delivered, I think, a very solid quarter. We certainly met expectations. We exceeded on the top line. And as we mentioned, our comp accelerated in the U.S. Throughout the quarter. January, posted a 3 comp, and February and March. You mentioned the incident in Philadelphia. Certainly, I was on the ground in Philadelphia really understanding every aspect of that. And we're going to do the right thing to be a better company because of that. Now, certainly, we commented that, the impact of Philadelphia, we have not seen a negative impact on our national comps thus far in the month.
I want to talk about China for a second. There's a remarkable comment that you made that you're coming in on the call, which is that China, they're used to having a half to 1 cup of coffee per person per year versus 300 cups in the United States. What would make China decide to drink more coffee?
Well, certainly, Jim, we've been in China for 20 years now, and we are introducing our Chinese customers to premium coffee experiences as well as tea. And, you see that in the fact that we're now over 3,200 stores in China. We're opening a new store on average every 15 hours in China. And with the middle-class population growing to over 600 million, we think we have a phenomenal opportunity to continue to reach more and more customers in China and introduce them to premium coffee experiences in our stores. That will lead to growth, and that is the premise. I think our China Asia Pacific region grew over 50% this quarter. Certainly part of that was the acquisition of the joint venture in East China. But all of mainland China now is a company-operated environment, and we're focused on the growth potential, the long-term growth potential that presents for Starbucks.
Yeah, I was thinking yesterday, just in terms of, Kevin, you've been around for a long time, you've been in tech too. There's a quandary for me about the valuation of Starbucks, which has been unchanged for the last 3 years, despite the fact you put up good numbers. If you were just regarded as a consumer products group company, your stock would be dramatically higher. You have much better growth. Do you think, just brainstorm with me, why are you not being re-rated like a consumer product story? Because that's really what you are, maybe the fastest grower of all of them.
Well, Jim, I think, certainly we're in this era where we're continue to post good, solid growth on top line, good earnings per share growth. We grew earnings per share this quarter 18%. And at the same time, over the last 3 years, we have continued to increase the dividend. And in fact, if you look at our dividend increase, our increase in dividend has exceeded the increase in earnings per share. And it is part of the formula that led us to the conclusion that we're returning $15 billion of cash to shareholders in the form of buybacks and dividends over this next 3 years. So clearly, we're going to stay focused on driving the growth agenda that we've outlined, and at the same time returning more and more cash to shareholders in the form of dividends and buybacks. And we think that formula is a good long-term formula for shareholder value creation. And we've demonstrated that over the last 3 years, and I anticipate we're going to continue to focus on it from that perspective.
Hey, Kevin, you mentioned no impact on national comps because of Philadelphia. Can the same be said by demographic or market or region at this early stage?
Well, certainly, Carl, we had, for that period that the protests and the incident occurred in Philadelphia, certainly those stores were impacted for a brief period. But, it's still early days, and we don't have all of the information on demographics. And but certainly, if I look nationally and I look at regions across the United States, there's not been a measurable impact that we can attribute to Philadelphia. But certainly in the city of Philadelphia during that period, there was some impact.
Kevin, what do you do? I own a restaurant. We talk about it a lot. What do you do with the bathroom? what do you do with the idea that it really does seem reasonable that someone pay something to get to use the facilities? The judgment call is so hard for the barista, for our bartenders. What is the right or wrong thing to do?
Well, you know, Jim, for Starbucks, we built this company on the concept of the third place. A place that's not your home and not your work, but it's the third place that you come to gather, you come to socialize, you come to have connection over coffee. And we've always strived to create a warm, welcoming environment for every single person who walks through that door. And so, you know, as part of what we're doing is we're reviewing every aspect of how this situation could have happened. Every single aspect, from policy, guidelines, to judgment, to training. And so we've got to do some work to make sure that, you know, that we continue to create that warm, welcoming environment. And we do it in a way that enables our partners in all of our stores to bring that to fruition. And so we're looking at all of those things and we're going to do the right thing.
Well, all the stores is an interesting question because you also have franchises. I mean, one of my friends who's a barista in a supermarket out west, they have certain rules that are different from what you want to do. How do you corral everybody into one view?
Well, you know, certainly, Jim, in the United States, roughly 40% of our stores are with licensed partners, as you point out. And these licensed partners, you know, are great companies that build Starbucks within grocery stores and hotels and other properties that they own. We have a very close relationship with them. They work to make sure that they bring the brand to life in the right way. And so it's a balance. You know, it's through dialogue and partnership with these companies that we've been partners with for years that we are working together to make sure that we think about this holistically. But roughly 40% of the stores in the U.S. are licensed, and we're working closely with our licensed partners on this journey as well.
I'm reminded, Kevin, it's just over a year now that you took over as Howard stepped aside. Reflections in that first year, and how does the job compare to what you thought it might have been?
Well, Carl, certainly, you know, Howard has been right there by my side, and you know, he's been helpful and supportive. But at the same time, he's been very good about stepping back so that I can step up and lead. And I think, you know, over this last year, you know, we've done a lot to streamline the company, to get more focused on our core value drivers, and to, you know, the way I think about it is this last year, much of it is having the wisdom to know what must be preserved and honored from the past, but also having the courage to reimagine and boldly reinvent our future. And that's the balance with which I've tried to strike the work that we're doing, and I think that's been the right balance, and Howard has been a fantastic partner in that journey.
You know, Kevin, sometimes I think Starbucks, you've got this absolutely great physical plant. People love it, third way. Periodically, you've talked about liquor, periodically doing food, periodically consumer products. Is there some killer product that you would like to offer or testing right now that make it so that people want to be there from 7 to 11 at night?
Well, from 7 to 11 at night, you know, you talk about that evening day part. You know, I think certainly in our reserve stores and our Princi stores, we have brought mixology, including you know, alcoholic beverages and mixed drinks that are in many cases bring coffee into those drinks as well. And so the place that we're experimenting with things in that day part, you know, are mainly at our high-end reserve roastery Princi stores. But I think, you know, certainly that evening day part in the core Starbucks store, you know, oftentimes as people, as students at night doing homework together, you know, it is stopping by for an after-dinner coffee on your way home from dinner. And so I think, you know, our core beverages and our core offerings in the Starbucks brand, I think, are also still relevant. But in our higher-end stores, we will bring mixology to the table.
All right, some of the consumer packaged goods companies that I talk about, let's talk about Constellation Brands, run by the brilliant Rob Sands. He has put an investment in, don't laugh please, because I'm telling you we're going there. He's put an investment in Canopy, which is liquid with marijuana, which is going to be legal in Canada and will, I think, one day be legal around the world. Any thoughts about that?
No, Jim, not at this time. I think that probably is a bit outside of the brand guardrails that we would consider for Starbucks. But, I appreciate the suggestion.
I had to go there. I think it's going to be the killer app.
Hey, Kevin, finally, commodity costs. I mean, where everybody's watching the relationship between cocoa and Hershey, and you've got some raw material input costs as well. A forecast for the year on that front?
Well, Carl, we buy our coffee certainly well in advance when we need it. And so we're constantly looking at the C price, and we'll buy coffee, green coffee, and keep it in inventory till needed. And I think coffee is purchased throughout the rest of this fiscal year for sure, and a bit into next fiscal year. So the model that we use at least for coffee and the C price, I think is a very solid model. And like everyone, we watch commodities. And so I think we're in a good place as it relates to coffee.
All right, Kevin, please share what you talk about in that day that you close the stores in the afternoon. We can all learn from you. Kevin Johnson, CEO of Starbucks. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on Squawk on the Street.
Thanks, guys.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.